Hi, welcome back to my channel. Tonight I'm going to do something pretty dangerous and maybe even stupid. But before we get to that, hi, I'm Cassie Villela. I'm a realtor, property manager, and investor in the San Antonio, Texas area. On my channel, I like to talk about real estate trends, real estate investing tips, home maintenance tips, etc. And so if you like that kind of stuff, then please remember to click subscribe and leave a like on this video. Now, without further ado, sorry, my bird clock is my favorite thing, but sometimes it interrupts me when I'm talking. Anyway, so tonight I'm going to be doing a real estate prediction. So what do I think is going to happen in the near future in the real estate market? Now, this is a really dangerous thing to do because obviously nobody knows what's going to happen. If you would have asked me at the beginning of COVID if we were going to be having record-breaking sellers market a year later, I would have said you were crazy. So obviously I've been wrong most of the time in the past, but I still thought it would be fun to research this topic, find some information, present that, and kind of give my best guess to what's going to happen. Now again, disclaimer, don't use this, it's worth what you paid for it, which is zero. So, don't use this to make any major life decisions. Just, it's just kind of for fun, what I think might happen. So that being said, so I'm starting out, I went on Twitter when I was thinking about doing this video. I went on Twitter and I just followed the hashtag real estate crash and just kind of scrolled through and found some really funny predictions that people have made in the past. And so, of course, in 2018, a lot of people were getting ready for the crash, getting ready for this bubble to burst, saying you need to sell out. It's going down any day now. Obviously, that didn't happen. And so now we have people saying the same thing. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I just thought it was funny to kind of see what all of these different people say. Or thought was going to happen in the past. So when I started researching this, I was pulling up articles, watching YouTube videos, and I mean, the trend is, how is this year similar to 2008? And there are some similarities. So if you're here on the ground trying to buy a house, or you're a realtor, you know that every listing is going to get dozens and dozens of offers on the first day. They're going way over asking price. I mean, it's just a frenzy right now. And that feels very much like the lead up to 2008. And I have some data to back up that, because that's anecdotal, but we do have some data. Home prices grew 12% year over year, which is the fastest since 2006. Also, the price for previously owned homes has surpassed the price for brand new homes because people are just so desperate to buy something. So that's, also kind of reminiscent of the lead up to 2008. And then our median selling price has reached a record high, both across the country and here in San Antonio. So, we know we've got bidding wars, investors who, I used to represent a lot of investors who are buying for cash flow, and that's really changed. Now I've got investors who want to buy for appreciation, so some speculation here in this market, and then of course rapidly accelerating prices. So that's kind of similar to the lead up to 2008, and that's why people are worried. However, it's very, very different. 2021 is very different than 2007. And I think the main reason that I got from everything I read, everything I watched, was supply. So supply is the amount of homes that are available to buy. So the amount of homes that are out for sale on the market. And so supply is at an all-time low. Here in San Antonio, we only have about 1 month inventory right now. A normal, stable market would be 6 months. And we only have 1 month inventory. So that's how low the supply has gotten. So, in 2006, there were 3.7 million homes for sale on the market. But right now there's only 1.5 million homes. Well, in early 2020, there were only 1.5 million homes. So you see, there's half as many homes as were available back then. And the reason that most of the articles I read gave for that decline in available homes is new construction. And I can kind of attest to this myself. So my dad has always been a home builder, and he built, his business really suffered after the crash in 2008. He never went back to building homes. He moved on to building industrial, commercial construction and didn't want to go back into homes because it was so risky. And so many people got so badly burned by the 2008 bubble. So a lot of builders have, scaled back how many homes they were producing. They weren't producing spec homes at the same level. And so basically, builders have been underbuilding for, over a decade now. And so that's why we have this supply crunch. And that's just kind of what I got from a lot of different places. I tried to cite the sources that I used here at the bottom. But, just from several different sources, all we're talking about how there's been this underbuilding in the new construction market. So that's very different because the lead up to 2008, a lot of spec homes, builders were just overbuilding because the prices, could never stop going up, right? And so that's very different. Lending has changed. So if you talk to a mortgage broker who was working in the industry before 2008, they probably have some pretty good stories for you. They were given loans to people who could not ever repay them. I mean, it was, people could just say, yep, like I have a heartbeat, and so give me a house, and not that simple, but pretty much, you didn't have to provide documentation to prove how much you made. They were getting away with basically lending to people who could not afford to pay back. So the Dodd-Frank Act really reversed a lot of those practices and made lenders more accountable, made them do a lot more investigation and documentation to make sure that these loans could be repaid. And so if you've gotten a loan since 2008, you know that there's so much paperwork, and that's why. But that being said, so lending, is a lot stricter now. So the people who have homes are a lot more qualified, and so they're less likely to default, which is what caused the crash in 2008. So along with the low supply that we've been seeing, there's also high demand because millennials are now starting to buy homes. We have people who've been sitting in their homes during COVID who are wanting to move up in home and have nicer homes, or need to buy a home with a home office, and a lot of people wanting to change locations or just upgrade their homes because of the pandemic. So there's a lot of demand, and again, very low supply. There, if you go on YouTube and you are looking for housing predictions, no matter when you're doing this, there's always going to be the doom and gloom guys. They're almost always guys. And they're going to have, the fire and like the whiteboard that they're writing on. And they're saying, okay, it's about to crash. Any day now, it's about to crash. So there are some reasons to, be worried about something like that. So this article from Forbes talked about 1 in 5 Americans being behind in rent. 2.8 million Americans are in mortgage forbearance. So that was that program during COVID that you could sort of delay your mortgage payments for up to a year. There's 2.8 million Americans that took advantage of that. And we don't really know how many are going to be able to jump back onto their mortgage payments and how many are going to need to default. A lot of people are worried that once, the Fed has been keeping rates very low, I think because the economy with COVID was suffering and real estate was sort of the one sector that was, booming. So the Fed has kept the interest rates really low so that the real estate industry can kind of prop up the economy. But, I can see when the economy starts to improve, when we start getting back to normal, if the Fed raises those rates to prevent inflation, I could see that causing a panic in the market. And so sellers trying to say, get out at the peak of the market. So a lot of people's argument is that that's going to happen, and that's going to lead to kind of an emotional selling off panic. And then the other argument is that we kind of have this weird housing boom while the government is also having to give people money to keep them afloat. So we've got this really struggling economy and this high actual unemployment rate, while we've got this housing boom and the prices going so high that people can't afford homes. So it, kind of this argument that the economy is going to have to improve for the housing market to continue to be strong. And I think that makes sense. I don't know how that causes an immediate crash. That seems like it would be more of a slow decline. And then the San Antonio market specifically is very different than the rest of the country. Supply has been really low in San Antonio. Like I said, it's 1 month right now of inventory. Supply's been low because our population has been expanding so rapidly. It's been low for a long time now. It's been a pretty tight market. It's been a seller's market for a while. And one of the main causes of that is migration from other states. So mostly on the West Coast, we have a lot of Californians, Washington, what do you call people from Washington? Washingtonites? I don't know. We have a lot of West Coast people relocating to Texas, to Austin, to San Antonio. And so we've got a lot of people coming in, and that is really, upsetting the market, because people who are selling a home in California, that housing market is so expensive that even though our median price of $277 sounds super high to those of us who are born and raised in San Antonio, to somebody from California, that's like basically free. That's nothing. And so they're coming in and they're able to pay with cash or put larger down payments and bid up the prices. And so that's really causing this kind of runaway appreciation that we're seeing. And that, doesn't seem likely to end soon, because it feels like it's really kind of just getting started. And so, that's kind of a double-edged sword. It's increasing prices that's kind of hurting San Antonians, but it's also creating a very stable homeowner base because they've paid for their homes with cash or a large down payment, so they have plenty of equity. If there is a crash, we've got a pretty stable homeowner population. Spillover from Austin is really affecting the northeast sector of San Antonio. So Austin has become so expensive that I have a lot of buyers that call and they want to live on the northeast side because they can't afford Austin, but they're still either going to have to work in Austin or maybe like work remotely for a company based in Austin. And so they want to live on the northeast side. So, Live Oak, Cibolo, Assured, Selma, Converse have all grown really substantially in the past couple of years. With all of those factors, those who are in forbearance, if there are people who are struggling and they're not going to be able to make their mortgage payments anymore, they're not going to be going through foreclosure. They're not going to have to, because the market there's so low supply, so the demand is there to buy their homes and they've got equity. So we're not going to have a bunch of foreclosures from those people in forbearance. Most likely they're going to sell, and hopefully that will alleviate some of that supply problem that we were talking about. So the big problem I see in the San Antonio market, just as somebody who has lived here, and is that the median income for San Antonio is pretty low. A family of four, the median income is $72,000. So that's in the San Antonio Current. I saw a bunch of different statistics. It's kind of all over the place, but that's the highest that I saw. So even using the highest median income, that's only about $5,000 take-home pay after taxes are taken out. And so if the median price home in San Antonio right now, this month, it's May right now, but last month, April 2021, the median price was $277,000. So the mortgage on that would be more than 1/3 of the average family's take-home pay. And so what's happening is this market is ramping up so much that San Antonians are getting priced out of their own market. And so that is definitely something that I see causing problems. Whether or not those problems end in a real estate crash, I don't think so, but it is still going to be a problem that we need to find a solution. So here's my prediction. Again, with a disclaimer, and it's going to be really funny to look back on this in a year and be like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong. I'm an idiot. But, I feel that San Antonio is a very strong market. We have all kinds of industry. We have so much migration. We have population growth. So I think as a long-term investment, San Antonio is strong. I do think that prices have risen so dramatically, so quickly, that I don't think that's sustainable. I think that prices are going to have to plateau at some point, and maybe even decrease a little bit before they plateau. But we're not going to keep being able to justify those high prices with our median income here. Inflation is up in a lot of sectors. If you've, tried to go buy some plywood lately, that. And so I think, with the amount of money that's being printed right now, I think that that's going to continue to rise. And so personally, I'm more concerned about inflation than I am a market crash, to be honest. I'm very concerned that inflation is going to rise pretty quickly in the next few years. And I think that's going to be more of a problem for us than prices. I think it's a really good time to make sure that you're not holding a bunch of cash, that you have that money in assets that can act as a hedge against inflation. And my favorite is real estate, but there are other options. Cash flow investors. So, I'm a buy and hold investor. Sometimes I do a BRRRR or something. I'm here for boring old cash flow. And so right now that's pretty much impossible to find. It's really hard to find unless you're boots on the ground finding that deal yourself. So I think that, I'm kind of sitting back, seeing what happens in the local market over the foreseeable future. I always recommend having a very healthy cash reserve for your properties so that you can weather a storm. If we get into some kind of crash or if something happens, there can always be some squirrely event that happens. So you need to be ready for something like that. But, if you have extra cash above and beyond that, I would definitely look for somewhere to put that to avoid inflation. What I'm really looking at personally as the biggest opportunity in San Antonio is affordable housing, because the average rent right now, the average rent on homes, like a single family home, is $1,587. In April 2021, it was $1,587. And as we talked about, the median price is $277. So those are pretty high. So it's becoming difficult for San Antonians to find affordable housing. So I think that people who are solving that problem are going to be just really necessary. I think that's something that we really need to focus on. And so if you can figure out a way to provide affordable housing in a lucrative way, I think that's going to be the key. So that's what I'm going to be researching myself. And we'll see. It'll be fun to watch this a year from now and see how wrong I was. But, please leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Do you think we're going to crash? Do you think that it's going to keep going up and this is just the beginning? Do you think that San Antonio is the next Austin? Are you worried about inflation? I definitely want to hear from you guys, hear what you think in the comments. If you like this video, my channel is all about real estate, investing, everything from investing to interior design, kind of just everything to do with houses I'm obsessed with. So if that's what you like, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.